I knew something was wrong the moment she opened the door. Her shoulders were slumped, her hands trembling, her eyes avoiding mine like she'd been trained not to look strangers in the face. My mother. My mother, greeting me like a hired maid. And behind her, sprawled across the leather couch I'd paid for, was my brother, shirtless, smirking at a TV bigger than his ego, living in the $1.5 million house I bought. Feet on the table, beer in hand, no clue I was even there. He didn't even glance up. That was the moment the fuse lit. I didn't speak, not at first. Silence is the sharpest blade. Instead, I stepped inside, watching her flinch as though she expected an order. She didn't recognize me. That part cut deeper than anything my brother had ever done. 10 years abroad. 10 years building an investment firm from a rented room until I could afford this house back home, the one I left in her care, the one I told my brother to simply watch over. And yet here she was, wiping her hands on an apron that wasn't hers, apologizing for the mess, her voice so small it barely existed. My mother had never apologized to me for anything in my life. That's when I knew. He'd broken her. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when my brother and I were inseparable. Two boys with scraped knees and matching secrets. He was reckless. I was responsible. I thought we balanced each other. I defended him, backed him, believed in him, because family was supposed to be the one thing worth protecting. When I left for Dubai, he hugged me like he meant it, told me he'd take care of Mom, no matter what. I believed him. God, that was my first mistake. The betrayal unfolded slowly, like rot behind a wall. At first it was small things, unreturned calls, my mother sounding tired, bills paid later than they should have been. Then her voice changed, quieter, careful. My brother answered her phone once, said she was busy. He sounded irritated I'd even called. I started noticing withdrawals from the home maintenance account, huge ones, always labeled supplies. Supplies my mother would never use. I confronted him by text. He replied with a single word, relax. That was the moment I stopped trying to reason. I started watching. I hired a local accountant, then a private investigator. I learned more in 1 month than I'd learned in 10 years. He'd moved in. He'd kicked her out of the master bedroom. He'd been spending my money on parties, friends, vacations. And he'd forced her, my mother, to clean after strangers like she worked for him. He turned her into staff in her own son's home. That was the moment the heartbreak curdled into strategic clarity. I didn't yell when I saw it with my own eyes. I didn't storm in or demand answers. No, that's what he expected. Instead, that night, I checked into a hotel 5 minutes away and opened my laptop like I'd been waiting for this moment all my life. I called my lawyer. I called my financial manager. I called the investigator again. And then I began the process of dismantling my brother's world, one quiet, measured move at a time. I revoked his access to every account, transferred the house title solely under my business corporation, filed notices, triggered eviction protocols, prepared charges for financial abuse and elder exploitation. Every document was prepared with surgical precision. By sunrise, every legal door he once walked through had been locked from the inside. It was time for confrontation. He was still half asleep when the doorbell rang the next morning. I stood there with my lawyer, 3 officers, and the eviction order he didn't even try to read. My brother blinked at me like he was seeing a ghost. "You can't be here," he muttered. I stepped forward, voice calm enough to freeze the air. "I own this house, and you turned my mother into a maid." Mom stepped behind me, finally recognizing my voice. Her gasp cracked something inside me I didn't know was still intact. He lunged for excuses, then blame, then anger. But every word died the moment officers told him he had 10 minutes. 10 minutes to come to terms with the end. He shoved clothes into a bag, cursing the whole time. I watched him with a quiet satisfaction he couldn't interpret. Because real revenge isn't loud, it's final. When the door finally closed behind him, I turned to my mother. She looked at me with tears caught between disbelief and relief, like she wasn't sure this was real. "It's over," I told her. And for the first time in years, she stood tall, like herself again. I don't regret a single move. Not the planning, not the precision, not the moment he realized the life he stole was never his. People think revenge is fire, but it isn't. It's ice, quiet, controlled, devastating. And I learned that justice tastes better when served cold in the home that always belonged to me and to her.